Section 7 of the Gospel in Brief by Leo Tolstoy. This LibriVox recording is in the public domain. Recording by K. Hand. Chapter 5. The True Life. The fulfillment of the personal will leads to death. The fulfillment of the Father's will gives true life. Thy will be done. And Jesus rejoiced at the strength of the Spirit and said, I acknowledge the Spirit of the Father, the source of everything in heaven and earth, who has revealed that which was hidden from the wise and learned to the simple solely through their acknowledging themselves sons of the Father. All take care for fleshly happiness, and have put themselves to a load which they cannot draw. They have put a yoke upon themselves which was not made for them. Understand my teaching and follow it, and you shall know rest and joy in life. I give you another yoke and another load, namely the spiritual life. Put yourselves to that, and you shall learn from me peace and happiness. Be calm and meek in heart, and you will find blessedness in your life. Because my teaching is a yoke made for you, and the fulfillment of my teaching is a light load with a yoke made for you. The disciples of Jesus once asked him whether he wished to eat. He said, I have food of which you do not know. They thought that someone had brought him something to eat. But he said, my food is to do the will of him who gave me life, and to fulfill that which he entrusted to me. Do not say, there is still time, as the plowman said, waiting for the harvest. He who fulfills the will of the Father is always satisfied and knows neither hunger nor thirst. The fulfillment of the will of God always satisfies, bearing its reward within itself. You must not say, I will afterwards fulfill the will of the Father. While there is life, you always can and must fulfill the will of the Father. Our life is the field which God has sown, and our business is to gather its fruits. And if we gather the fruits, we will get the reward, life beyond time. True it is that we do not give ourselves life, someone else does. And if we labor to gather in life, then we, like reapers, get our reward. I teach you to gather in this life which the Father has given you. Once Jesus came to Jerusalem, and there was then a bathing place there. And men said of this bathing place that an angel came down into it, and through this the water in the bath would begin to move, and he who first plunged into the water after it was moved got well from whatever he was ailing. And sheds were made around the bath, and under these sheds sick men lay, waiting for the water in the bath to be moved in order to plunge into it. And a man was there who had been infirm 38 years. Jesus asked who he was. And the man told how he had been ailing so long, and was still waiting to get into the bath first, upon the water being moved, in order to be healed. But for these 38 years he had been unable to get in first, others were always getting into the bath before him. And Jesus saw that he was old, and said to him, Do you wish to get well? He said, I wish to, but I have no one to carry me into the water in time. Someone always will get in before me. And Jesus said to him, Awake, take up your bed and walk. And the sick man took up his bed and walked. And it was the Sabbath. And the Orthodox said, You must not take up the bed, for today is the Sabbath. He said, He who raised me bade me also take up the bed. And the infirm man said to the Orthodox that it was Jesus who had healed him. And they became angry and accused Jesus because he did such things on the Sabbath. And Jesus said, That which the Father always does, I also do. In truth, I say to you, the Son of himself can do nothing. He does only that which he has understood from the Father. What the Father does, he also does. The Father loves the Son, and by this very fact has taught him everything which the Son should know. The Father gives life to the dead, and thus the Son gives life to him who desires it, because as the business of the Father is life, so the business of the Son must be life. The Father has not condemned men to death, but has given men power, at will, to die or live. And they will live if they shall honor the Son as the Father. I tell you truly that he who has understood the meaning of my teaching, and has believed in the common Father of all men, already has life, and is delivered from death. They who have understood the meaning of human life have already escaped from death, and shall live forever. Because, as the Father lives of himself, so also has he given the Son life within himself. And he has given him freedom. It is by this that he is the Son of Man. Henceforth all mortals shall be divided into two kinds. They alone who do good shall find life, but they who do evil shall be destroyed. And this is not my decision, but it is what I have understood from the Father. And my decision is true, because I thus decide, not in order to do that which I wish, but in order that all may do that which the Father of all wishes. If I were to assure that all my teaching is true, this would not establish my teaching. But there is that which establishes my teaching, namely the conduct which I teach. That shews that I do not teach of myself, but in the name of the Father of all men ; and my Father, he who has taught me, confirms the truth of my commandments in the souls of all. But you do not wish to understand and to know his voice, and you do not accept the meaning this voice speaks, that which is in you is spirit descended from heaven. This you do not believe. Enter into the meaning of your writings. You will find in them the same as in my teaching, commandments to live, not for yourself alone, but for the good of men. Why then do you not wish to believe in my commandments, which are those that give life to all men ? I teach you in the name of the common Father of all men, and you do not accept my teaching. But if anyone shall teach you in his own name, him will you believe. One cannot believe that which people say to each other, but one can only believe that in every man there is a Son like the Father. And that men may not think that the kingdom of heaven is established by anything visible, but that they may understand that the kingdom of God consists in the fulfilment of the Father's will, and understand that the fulfilment of the Father's will depends on each man's effort and striving to make people see that life is given, not for oneself personally, but for the fulfilment of the Father's will, which alone saves from death and gives life, Jesus told a parable. He said, there was a rich man who had to go away from his home. Before he went, he called his slaves, and gave among them 10 talents, one to each, and said, while I am away, labour each of you upon what I have given. But it happened that, when he was gone, certain inhabitants of the town said, we do not wish to serve him any more. When the rich man came back, he called the slaves to whom he had given the money, and bade each say what he had done with the money. The first came and said, see, master, for your one I have earned 10. And the master said to him, well done, good servant, you have been trustworthy in a little, I will place you over much, be one with me in all my wealth. Another slave came and said, see, master, for your talent I have earned 5. And the master said to him, well done, good slave, be one with me in all my estate. And yet another came and said, here is your talent, I hid it in a cloth and buried it, because I was afraid of you. You are a hard man, you take where you did not store, and gather where you did not sow. And the master said to him, foolish slave, I will judge you by your own words. You say that, from fear of me, you hid your talent in the earth and did not work upon it. If you knew that I was severe, and take where I did not give, then why did you not do that which I bade you do? If you had worked upon my talent, the estate would have been added to, and you would have fulfilled that which I bade you. But you have not done that for which the talent was given you, and therefore you must not own it. And the master bade the talent be taken from him who had not worked upon it, and given to him who had worked most. And then the servants said to him, sir, he already has much. But the master said, give to them who have worked much, because he who looks after that which he has shall receive an increase. As to them who did not wish to be in my power, drive them forth, so that they may be here no more. Now this master is the source of life, the Spirit, the Father. His slaves are men. The talents are the life of the Spirit. As the master does not himself work upon his estate, but bids the slaves to work, each by himself, so the Spirit of life in men has given them the command to work for the life of men, and then left them alone. They who sent to say that they did not acknowledge the authority of the master are they who do not acknowledge the Spirit of life. The return of the master, and the demand for an account, is the destruction of the fleshly life, and the decision of the fate of men as to whether they have yet life beyond that which was given to them. Some, the slaves who fulfil the will of the master, work upon that which was given them, and make gain on gain. They are those men who, having received life, understand that life is the will of the Father, and is given to serve the life of others. The foolish and wicked slave, who hid his talent and did not work upon it, represents those men who fulfil only their own will, and not the will of the Father, who do not serve the life of others. The slaves who have fulfilled the master's will, and worked for the increase of his estate, become sharers of the whole estate of the master, while the slaves who have not fulfilled the master's will, and have not worked for him, are bereft of that which was given them. People who have fulfilled the will of the Father, and have served life, become sharers in the life of the Father, and receive life, notwithstanding the destruction of the fleshly life. They who have not fulfilled the will, and have not served life, are bereft of that life which they had, and are destroyed. They who did not wish to acknowledge the authority of the master, such do not exist for the master. He drives them forth. People who do not acknowledge within themselves the life of the Spirit, the life of the Son of Man, such do not exist for the Father. After this, Jesus went into a desert place, and many people followed him. And he climbed a mountain, and sat there with his followers. And he saw that there was a great throng, and said, whence shall we get bread to feed all these people? Philip said, even 200 pence will not suffice if to each be given but a little. We have only a little bread and fish. Another disciple said, "They have bread, I have seen it. There is a boy who has 5 loaves and 2 small fishes." And Jesus said, "Bid them all lie down on the grass." And Jesus took the loaves which he had, and gave them to his disciples, and bade them give them to others. And so all began to hand from one to another what there was, and all were satisfied, yet much was left over. The next day the people came again to Jesus, and he said to them, "See, you come to me, not because you have seen wonders, but because you have eaten bread and were satisfied." And he said to them, "Work not for perishable food, but for everlasting food, such as only the Spirit of the Son of Man gives, sealed by God." The Jews said, "But what must we do in order to do the works of God?" And Jesus said, "The work of God is in this, to believe in that life which he has given you." They said, "Give us a sign that we may believe. What are your deeds which can serve as a proof? Our fathers ate manna in the wilderness. God gave them bread from heaven to eat, and so it is written." Jesus answered them, "The true heavenly bread is the spirit of the Son of Man, that which the Father gives. Because the nourishment of man is the spirit descended from heaven. This it is which gives life to the world. My teaching gives true nourishment to man. He who follows me shall not hunger, and he who believes in my teaching will never know thirst. But I have already told you that you have seen this, yet do not believe. All that life which the Father gave the Son will be realized through my teaching, and everyone who believes will be a sharer in it. I came down from heaven, not to do that which I wish, but to do the will of the Father, of him who gave me life. But the will of the Father who sent me is this, that I should keep all that life which he gave, and should not destroy anything of it. And therefore, herein is the will of the Father who sent me, that everyone who sees the Son, and believes in him, should have everlasting life. And my teaching gives life at the last day of the body." The Jews were shocked at his saying that his teaching was come down from heaven. They said, "Why, this is Jesus, the son of Joseph. We know his father and mother. How then can he say that his teaching has descended from heaven?" "Do not debate as to who I am and whence I am come," said Jesus. "My teaching is true, not because I declare, like Moses, that God spoke with me on Sinai, but it is true because it is in you also. Everyone who believes my commandments believes, not because it is I who speak, but because our common Father draws him to himself, and my teaching will give him life at the last day. And it is written in the prophets that all shall be taught by God. Everyone who shall understand the Father and shall learn to understand his will, thereby yields himself to my teaching. That any man has seen the Father, this has never been, except he who is from God, he has seen and sees the Father. He who believes in me, in my teaching, has everlasting life. My teaching is the nourishment of life. Your fathers ate manna, food straight from heaven, and yet they died. But the true nourishment of life which descends from heaven is such that he who is fed with it will not die. My teaching is this nourishment of life descended from heaven. He who is fed with it lives forever. And this nourishment which I teach is my flesh, which I give for the life of all men." The Jews did not understand what he said, and began to dispute as to how it was possible to give one's flesh for the nourishment of men, and why. And Jesus said to them, "If you shall not give up your flesh for the life of the Spirit, there will be no life in you. He who does not give up his flesh for the life of the Spirit has not real life. That in me which gives up the flesh for the Spirit, that alone lives. And therefore our flesh is the true food for the real life. That only which in me consumes my body, that which gives up the fleshly life for the true life, that only is I. It is in me, and I am in it. And as I live in the flesh by the will of the Father, similarly that which lives in me lives by my will." And some of his disciples, when they heard this, said, "These are hard words, and it is difficult to understand them." And Jesus said to them, "Your ideas are so confused that my sayings as to what man was, is, and always will be, seem difficult to you. Man is the spirit in the flesh, and the spirit alone gives life, but the flesh does not give life. In the words which seem so difficult to you, I have really said nothing more than that the spirit is life." Afterwards, Jesus chose 70 men out of his near friends, and sent them into those places where he himself wished to go. He said to them, "Many people do not know the blessing of real life. I am sorry for all, and wish to teach all, but as the master is not enough for the reaping of his field, so also I shall not suffice. Go you, then, through the various cities, and everywhere proclaim the fulfilment of the will of the Father. Say, the will of the Father is in this, not to be angered, not to be sensual, not to swear, not to resist evil, and not to make any distinction between people. And accordingly, do ye in everything fulfil these commandments. I send you like sheep among wolves. Be wise as snakes, and pure as doves. Before everything, have nothing of your own. Take nothing with you, neither wallet, nor bread, nor money, only clothes upon your body, and shoes. Further, make no distinctions between people. Do not choose your hosts where you shall put up, but in whichever house you shall come first, stay there. When you come into the house, greet the master. If he welcomes you, stay ; if not, go into another house. For that which you shall say, they will hate you, and fall upon, and persecute you. And when they shall drive you out, go into another village, and if they all drive you out of that, go yet into another. They will persecute you as wolves hunt sheep. But do not quail, suffer to the last hour. And they will take you into the courts, and will try you, and will flog you, and will take you before the authorities, that you may justify yourselves before them. And when you shall be taken into the courts, be not afraid, and do not bethink yourselves what you shall say. The Spirit of the Father will speak through you, what is needful to be said. You will not have passed through all the towns before people will have understood your teaching and will turn to it. And so, be not afraid. That which is hidden in the souls of men will come forth. That which you shall say to 2 or 3 will spread among thousands. But chiefly, be not afraid of those who may kill your body. To your souls they can do nothing. And so, do not fear them. But be afraid lest both your bodies and souls be destroyed by your abstaining from the fulfilment of the will of the Father. That is what you have to fear. 5 sparrows are sold for a farthing, but even they shall not die without the Father's will. And a hair shall not fall from the head without the Father's will. So then, what need you be afraid of, seeing you are in the Father's will? Not all will believe in my teaching, and they who will not believe will hate it, because it bereaves them of that which they love, and strife will come of it. My teaching, like fire, will kindle the world. And from it strife must arise in the world. Strife will arise in every house, father against son, mother against daughter, and their kin will become haters of them who understand my teaching, and they will be killed. Because for him who shall understand my teaching, neither his father, nor his mother, nor wife, nor children, nor all his property will have any weight." Then the learned Orthodox gathered at Jerusalem and went to Jesus. Jesus was in a village, and a crowd of people thronged into the place and stood around. The Orthodox began to speak to the people in order that they might not believe in the teaching of Jesus. They said that Jesus was possessed, that if they should live by his commandments, there would then be yet more evil among the people than now. They said that he drove out evil with evil. Jesus called them to him and said, "You say that I drive out evil with evil, but no power destroys itself. If it destroys itself, then it would not be. You would drive out evil with threats, executions, murders, but evil, nevertheless, is not destroyed, precisely because evil cannot make head against itself. But I drive out evil by other means than you do, that is to say, not with evil. I drive out evil by summoning people to fulfill the will of the Spirit, the Father, who gives life to all. 5 commandments express the will of the Spirit which gives happiness and life, and these commandments destroy evil. By their doing so, you have a proof that they are true. If men were not sons of one spirit, it would not be possible to overcome evil, as it is not possible to go into the house of a strong man and rob it. In order to rob the house of a strong man, it is necessary first to bind the strong man, and men are bound thus in the unity of the Spirit of life. And therefore I tell you that every mistake of men and every wrong interpretation shall escape punishment, but false representation about the Holy Spirit, which gives life to all, shall not be forgiven to men. Should anyone say a word against man, that is not important, but should anyone say a word against that which is holy in man, against the Spirit, this cannot pass unpunished. Gird at me as much as you like, but do not call evil the commandments of life which I have disclosed to you. It cannot pass unpunished, if a man shall call that good which is evil. It is necessary to be at one with the Spirit of life. He who is not at one with it is against it. It is necessary to serve the Spirit of life and of good in all men, and not in oneself alone. You must either hold that life and happiness is good for the whole world, then love life and happiness for all men, or else hold life and happiness and evil, and then not love life and happiness for yourself. You must either hold a tree good and its fruit good, or else hold a tree bad and its fruit bad, because a tree is valued by its fruit." End of section 7.